Hey, welcome to the Industry Iowa podcast powered by CIRIS, the Center for Industrial Research and Service at Iowa State University. This is the show where we explore the people, partnerships, and practical strategies driving industry in Iowa forward. Whether you're a manufacturer, innovator, or community leader, you will find real-world insights to strengthen your business and your region. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by two incredible leaders who are helping entrepreneurial companies turn confusion into clarity, using the one thing that never lies, data. First up is Mark Stanley. Mark is a seasoned expert EOS implementer with over 15 years of experience helping leadership teams run better businesses. Mark's led more than 1,600 EOS sessions and guided over 150 organizations across multiple industries. Joining him is Angela Kalemis, an engineer turned entrepreneurial coach who blends a strong technical background with a passion for helping leaders thrive. She's facilitated over 600 EOS sessions with more than 70 companies and also serves as a coach to new EOS implementers around the world. Together with their co-author, Mark O'Donnell, they've written a powerful new book, Data, Harness Your Numbers to Go from Uncertain to Unstoppable, a practical guide for using data to align your team, eliminate surprises, and drive performance with confidence. Mark and Angela, welcome to the show.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Steve. Thanks for having us.
Good to have you here, and I want to let everybody know that it's going to be a two-parter. There's so much information here from both Angela and Mark and from the book. We're going to be doing two parts. So today we're starting part one. And again, just appreciate both of you taking time. I know you've had busy schedules with some of the workshops, which we're definitely going to be talking about as well, but just some busy schedules, and appreciate you stepping in this afternoon to share with us your wisdom, not only about data, but the book and workshops. So I have to ask you, and Mark, you can kick us off with this one. Why'd you write the book? I know you personally, Mark. You're a very dedicated and a very busy individual. And so, hey, writing a book is not an easy thing. So why did you write the data book?
Well, couldn't be more excited about the book, Steve. As part of the EOS world, there's the EOS model, and there's 6 components to it. And one of those components is data. So as EOS created the traction book and created the model, there's an interest, or there's now a book is being created for each one of the components of the model. So data was up next. People's been done, process has been done, data was the next one. And so what we find and what our discovery has been is that our entrepreneurial leadership teams, after 100 people that I've taken through EOS and 1,600 sessions, they really struggle with the scorecard. They really struggle with everybody has a number. And then the cash drivers for the first time ever is kind of out of the EOS session room and into the public domain. So so it's a real service to the leadership teams that we work with to help them do a deeper dive and get a scorecard that they love, make sure everybody has and knows their number, because high performers love to know what winning is, and then actually work through and define what drives the cash in their business and who owns each driver. So collectively, this book is a real deep dive on the topic of data to help those leaders go from kind of, the entrepreneur leaders especially, go from that kind of fly by the seat of the pants gut feel to being more of a data-driven leader.
I have to ask you, Angela, and this is the first time having the opportunity to meet Angela. And how long have you two known each other?
I guess 2 years now, Mark?
2 years, yeah.
2 years? Okay, I got to ask you, how'd you get roped into writing a book with Mark Stanley?
Well, so Mark O'Donnell and I were writing it first, just the two of us. And Mark Stanley happens to be one of the experts in our community, all related to the cash flow drivers. Mm-hmm. So Mark O'Donnell and I just figured, hey, why don't we pull in one of the most amazing experts to talk to us about how to drive more cash, how to unlock that cash, how to be able to just connect all the dots and just fuel the vision of the organization. So we pulled Mark Stanley in, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to work with him, and it's been great. It's really just been great. I feel like I've known him for years, honestly. Feels a lot longer.
Yeah.
Angela's so nice. I really elbowed my way in, is what she said.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got subtitles that are popping up with that information there, Mark. So yeah, it'll be clear to the listeners and viewers. So okay, why did you write the book? What is your particular? You talked that Mark was more on the cash flow and those types of things there. What's your perspective, or what's your expertise, and has you tie into the book?
So I guess my expertise is more like I probably have more of a relationship or connection to integrators. And integrators are responsible. I don't know how familiar you are with EOS, Steve, but like integrators are responsible for really executing the business plan, making sure that people are doing what they need to do, making sure that we're like hitting our targets, making progress against the goals, short term, long term. And sometimes it's really hard to know exactly how we're doing, if we're making enough progress, how are all the leadership team, all the functions doing. And they struggle with data the most. Just having that full transparency, people are overwhelmed by it. They don't understand it. They don't understand how certain actions result to like achieving the vision and the goals.
Mhm.
And I wanted to help both our community of clients, but also our EOS implementers that struggle with helping their clients with this. I wanted to help make those connections for them and just make it easier for them to track the data and take that overwhelm out of it.
Yeah, you mentioned again overwhelmed, and Mark and I were talking a little bit before we got started um, about numbers and all of that, and sometimes there's a small percentage of those that say yes, data, let's go, right? I'm excited about it, but I would say the majority probably not, and that's for multiple reasons, but what can you share here that would excite people to pick up a book that has in large font data, right? What's the driver?
Well,
What's the impetus? What's the excitement? What's in it?
I think you got to read the subtitle, right? And the subtitle really drives it home. It's harness your numbers to go from uncertain to unstoppable. The feedback that we've been getting about this book is like we've been able to take a pretty dry, boring topic and make it a little bit more interesting, make it a little bit more real, right? And it's really like the power of what data can do in a company versus like the bean counting of like a financial kind of accounting type person. That's not what this is about. This is about how to use data to be more of a decision maker, not a reporting tool. That's not what we're talking about. There's a ton of books that tell you how to report numbers and count beans. This is more how to drive results, let it influence and fuel decisions, and really get more of what you want out of your business. That's what it's about.
Mark,
Mark,
tell
I don't
me a
know if you
little
wanted
bit.
to add
Oh, go
anything.
ahead. Yeah. Mark, tell me a little bit about what else is in there. I know
But I can't.
knowing you, it's not just theoretical. There's got to be some practical application, things like that. So what
Super
else is in it?
practical. Yeah, so I want to really camp on what Angela said there. So if you think about the EOS model, the six components that every entrepreneurial business needs to operate with, we've got the vision. So data helps us get more of what we want out of our business, more of that vision, helps us make our purpose bigger and larger. It helps us on the people component. Get the right people in the right seats. And by any other measure, People Analyzer, one of the tools is a scorecard, helps us get to the root cause of issues in the issues component. It helps us get a pulse of how the business is operating, and the traction component, particularly in the L10 meeting, helps us keep our processes dialed in. And the very last part, so it's kind of a thread that goes through all of this. And
Mm-hmm.
lastly, the data and the scorecard particularly is a feedback system for improvement. So it gives you the information you need to keep the process, make it better and better and better. So it's that feedback loop for improvement that's data based, and it's pretty simple that way, right? So it's that thread that it's a force multiplier through all the other components of the model.
Well
So
said.
if you want to be stronger in your business and stronger in those six components, data is the key.
Yeah. Angela, you were going to say something?
Oh, no, I just loved what Mark just said. And well said. It's the force multiplier. Love that term.
Yeah, and so it's again my understanding that this, as you said, that thread that goes all the way through each and every one, right? Because with people and processes and all of those things there, and even in the issues, right? They all have to be connected with that data. How do you though, and you touched on it a little bit, but that notion of data aversion, how does the book address that, help them overcome the fear or the reluctance associated with data-driven decision making? How do they, and even adding to that, getting them to move from gut to clarity? How do we do that? How does your book address that?
You want me to take that first, Mark?
Yeah, and I'll take. Yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead, Angela. Yeah.
Sure.
I can see you're getting a big smile as I'm talking about that. So let's give it to you.
Okay, so I would say there's probably a couple different things, Steve. I would say like sometimes we work with clients where like they're so overwhelmed by the concept of understanding financials and data. It's really like maybe the owner of the business and maybe the finance lead or the CFO that understands the ins and outs of how a business makes money and what are the factors that affect how much profit or how much money or how efficient they are or whatnot. And there's so many times that I work with clients that it's really just one or two people in the room that understand it. So we're trying to take that overwhelm out, break it down for them, get them to just get a little bit of financial understanding, financial literacy, and really understand what are the drivers that impact revenue or profitability or efficiency. How do I get, like, how does the correlation between everyone having a number, or a number is like, how do they keep score? What does success look like? How does that correlate to us getting additional revenue or profit or results? So it's kind of making it just very easy and simple for them to understand and practically apply in their business without it being like a financial book. That's not what it is.
It is far from a financial book, right? So it's practical tools that help you get more of what you want out of your business. And if you think about it, part of what we're talking about is clarity, confidence, and control. So clarity and understanding, what are the key elements of the business? What are the key data points, the drivers? Then once we get more clear in the business, we actually gain more confidence. And once we have confidence, we actually have more control of the business. So ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, is through simplicity, create better clarity, better confidence, and better control, and really simplify things. So we don't need 30 numbers on a scorecard. We need to drive it down to the 5 to 15. And the scorecard, as we work through it with even our clients, I had a client last week, and they came in, they had a scorecard that had 30 measures on it, and it just was a reporting tool. And we went through the scorecard kind of one by one and said, that's a reporting tool, that's a reporting tool. And what we really want the scorecard to be is an action driver in the business. So scorecard shows red, doesn't hit the goal. That's a signal to go to IDS and create the action to drive the business. Then if it's red, if the number's off, we're looking for two places. It's either a people issue, they didn't carry out what they needed to do, or maybe they weren't trained, or maybe they were trained and just decided not to do it that day, or it's a process problem where maybe they skipped a step or two, or they weren't trained on it. So it's either a people or a process problem when the scorecard showing the numbers off. So if you've got your people dialed in the accountability chart, you got your process put together in your core process manual, it's one of those two places is where you're going to find it. Or maybe it's that LMA component, right? Whether it's the coaching component. The leaders aren't coaching them well. So simplicity.
Yeah. And Angela, how do you facilitate, moderate that process of helping that organization? Because I know scorecard development is it's central to your book. And so what are some of the other key steps perhaps that they should take to develop those scorecards?
Sure. So in the book, you'll see that there are 6 different steps of how to build a great scorecard, right? And some of those steps are like really figuring out what are the 5 to 15 key numbers. When they're really struggling with that, there's different tools that we can utilize. So different tools at our disposal here, something like, okay, let's go back to the accountability chart and figure out what are the functions that you need in your business and how do you measure that each function is doing a great job? That's one way. Let's tie it to the vision and figure out where do you need to go, short-term, long-term? How do you know you're making good progress against your vision? And sometimes if they need more tools, we have this other tool called the Getting What You Want tool, which we start with the end in mind. Let's say it's getting 1 new client a month. Well, what do you need to do to get that 1 client a month? How many sales proposals? How many meetings do you need? How many new leads do you need? And we just kind of start with the end in mind and back it out. And when we're starting to figure out what are the drivers that help me get that one client a month, then we figure out, well, where does it need to be measured? By whom? Where does it belong? So we're just kind of getting them to think about the results they want in their business,
Mhm.
and then just start making it easy for them to figure out where does it belong. And that's what I mean by taking that overwhelm out for them. The steps are designed in a way to make the entire facilitation of this process just easier for them.
And so then you provide in the book, you're providing just some practical tools and steps on how to do that, right? Because, and I understand too, and I want you guys to both of you to talk about this workshop, right? I know that you're doing a workshop, and before I go there, I like to pepper throughout. But where can folks get the book?
Well, you can go to the unstoppable-biz.com website, and you can download a free chapter 1. So you can go there. I believe you can order the book on that site. It's available on Amazon too. As always, if you love the book, please give it 5 stars. If you don't, just let us know. But it's available on all the outlets, Barnes and Nobles and all that. It's pretty well distributed. Dan Bella was the publisher. They've been great to work with, and and so it's easy to get a hold of. It's also available on audiobook, so you can download it and listen to it as you're driving in your car. So a bunch of different ways to do it.
Yep.
And
And the
then,
website has a direct link to purchase. And I just wanted to add, Steve, you
Yeah.
talk about like what's in the book. It's packed with real life stories, tools, templates, like real stories from existing EOS clients. So every single chapter has thought provoking questions, real world application stories. The back is filled with templates and tools. It's such a practical book. It's not just theory.
Yeah, and I want to hold on to that stories, because I want to ask both of you, just share some stories that are either in there or the results of an organization really embracing this concept and understanding. And then the other thing is you've been doing some workshops. Mark, would you speak to that? Tell me a little bit about the workshops. I know you have one coming up in September. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's impossible to put everything you want to say into the book, and the workshops are again very tactical and hands-on, very proven. It's a workshop, so we roll up our sleeves, we put clients together at a table, and they share their stories at the table. So imagine we've got 50 people in the room. Each table has 5 to 6 people at the table, and they're sharing their stories, and we're just walking them through. In the morning, we're helping them build a scorecard that they love. So as Angela talked about, we walk them through the 6 steps, and they either bring in the scorecard that they have already completed, or they bring in or we start brand new with the scorecard. I mentioned a few minutes ago that the client that had the 30 scorecard measures on there, we just decided that that was too big of a hairball. We just put that to the side, and we just started back with the 6 steps and built it brand new. And then we go from there into everybody has and knows their number. And so this is, high performers love to know how they're measured. They want to know what winning looks like. And so we walk out of there with their highest performance, having everybody have a number. And the thing that I'm equally excited about in the afternoon is, we created this cash flow playbook. And today there are 10 plays in the playbook. That stuff doesn't exist in the book. But of the 10 plays, we walk them through and have them calculate numbers real life in real time. Last week in Denver, we had a gentleman had a high vac company. He was probably 40 or 50 million in sales, so big but not huge. And he was able to identify about 5 million in real bottom line impact, for that day. And that seems like unreal to be able to do that. And we said, well, maybe that's shooting a little too high. Let's just take that in half and say, how about 2.5 million, and walk out of there with some real practical, you know, action items to go get it, right? Because it's one thing to identify, it's another thing to go get it. But those are pretty typical results for clients as we walk them through the calculations in their business of the numbers they're finding. And so it's kind of fun, had somebody said, why do you want to make more money in your business? And a person in the room said, well, because it's fun. I said, well, of course it's fun, but what you really want to do is expand your purpose. You want to make your vision bigger. make the vision bigger for people and get more of what you want to do in the world out to the world and employ people and create jobs and opportunities and all of those things. And then profit and cash flow helps you. It's the lifeblood that helps you do more of that. So all of that is in the book. Sorry, in some form. I mean, there's a whole chapter called cash, but the real kind of deep dive, roll up your sleeves is in the workshop, is a great companion of stuff we couldn't pack in the book. Otherwise, it'd be 500 pages.
50% of the workshop is not even in the book. So consider it like this, like you're walking in with some version of a scorecard. Even if you don't have the official EOS scorecard, you're tracking some kind of data in your business. This is almost like a full practical application scorecard makeover, walking in with maybe a great scorecard or a decent scorecard, but you're walking out with one that gives you a true understanding of exactly how you're doing. It gives you predictive power. It gives you activity-based measurables that drive results for every single person in your business. And it gives you clarity, confidence, and control, like Mark spoke about earlier. It's like a practical application of all these tools.
And Mark, when you were talking about, going beyond, they said, hey, fun, right? It's going beyond that. And I was thinking about a phrase that I recently heard. What's the goal of the goal, right? I mean, that's the goal, but what's the goal of that goal, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you were speaking to there.
Well,
of broadening
ultimately, the goal of the goal is what, has become to be termed the EOS life, right? Which has 5 parts, which is doing what you love every day, waking up loving what you do. So, that's second part of that is surround yourself with people you just love being around.
that.
Third part's making a difference in the lives of others. Part 4 is being compensated appropriately and really spending the time in your sweet spot, right? Your superpower in the world. And the fifth part is making sure that you're making time to pursue personal passions. And that's a pretty good life when you're doing that. And so that's the goal of the goal. And so, if we can have a data component that helps you have a self-managing company, right? Then you can step away and have more of that EOS life. But when you're stressed out, you're frustrated, you have that, we term it the 8 hours of work, the 8 hours of worry, and the 8 hours of sleepless nights, worrying about work, you never get out of it as an entrepreneur. So if we can have this data component be really strong for these entrepreneurial businesses and business leaders, we hopefully free up that we can get more of the goal, right? Which is that in our mind might be the EOS life.
Yeah.
The freedom ultimately.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Just to let folks know too that maybe not exactly sure how you got here, but you can find more information about CIRRUS, again, Center for Industrial Research and Service, and cirrus.iastate.edu. Again, CIRRUS is an outreach of what I like to refer to as the Iowa State University. Just great. We have with us today Mark Stanley and Angela Kalemis speaking to us about not only EOS but their book on data, and encourage you to check that out at spots where both Mark and Angela said that it can be found. Again, as we mentioned, this is going to be a two-parter, and as wrap out a little bit, I do want to hear, Angela, from you on is there a particular story that you were part of or that you can reflect on from the book?
Yeah, and so the book is just sprinkled with our client stories, Mark and I, our stories, right? Like from our actual clients. I would say like 2 really jump out at me. One happens to be very near to my heart. It's my husband's company. His company just grew hyper growth, has like just quadrupled in revenue and size and performance over the last several years since implementing EOS, and that hyper growth almost put him out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was growing, which everyone is just like, yeah, sign me up for that. But the way that his business model works is he has to upfront pay commission to his salespeople, and then it takes him about 4 to 6 months to recoup that investment before he starts making money on each client. He does credit card processing. And that hyper growth and the laying out of all that cash literally almost made him bankrupt. And we had to really dial in his tools because everyone was just like, oh, we're doing so great. The tools didn't tell him that. So we had to iterate. This is an iterative process And that's why I love the question, what has surprised you over the last quarter? What did the tool not tell you? Because when it's right, it should be predictive. And taking that thought process of what was I surprised by? What can it tell me that it didn't? And taking the time to iterate and improve those tools, that's one story that just like pops out at me.
Hmm. As we close out, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of different ones, and I'm sure that there's so many that will resonate with organizations that are in different stages of growth, of utilization of data, and their experience with that. So I appreciate that. And as we close out this part one of our discussion here, love to hear from both of you, and we'll start with Mark. I almost felt like saying we'll start with bachelor number one.
Do I get a rose?
I was having some flashbacks there to the dating game. We'll start with bachelor number one. We'll start with Mr. Stanley here. What were some lessons learned through the process of writing and researching the book? What were maybe some unexpected insights or lessons that you gained? As because I mean, as you're teaching, as you're presenting, as you're moderating, facilitating, you're oftentimes developing and all of a sudden aha moments yourself. What came out of that in the form of the book?
Oh, there are so many. I suppose the one we already talked about it a little bit was how important and impactful data is to every other component of the model was a key learning for me. I mean, you kind of know it's there, but not really understanding how much of a force multiplier it is when you can get data-driven leaders, build data-driven leaders from fly by the seat of the pants, and just how impactful data is in all other components of the model would be one of the key learnings. Angela had one the other day while in the session. I'm just learning something every time Angela does a workshop. I'm taking a bunch of notes, and she said, on this particular one, can you poke a belly button on it? Like it needs to be human activity based. And so we talk about activity based all the time, but whose belly button am I poking to say this is your number and you've got to drive it the right way? And so those are just kind of practical things that you kind of learn as you go along, and just different ways to teach it. And the questions, that we have in workshops are, and of course, we're writing the book as well, but particularly in the workshops, the questions that come up from people, like how do you set a goal when a number is trending up or trending down, and what do you do with seasonality? And those are things that you have to think about. You understand the principle, but then how do you apply the principle in a particular situation? And the situations are kind of fun because they challenge you to think about, what is the best answer for that question. So I'm learning every time we do a workshop. I'm taking away 10 nuggets myself.
Angela, what would you say?
Oh boy. So can I give you two? Is that okay, Steve?
Yes, that's yeah, absolutely fine.
Okay. So the first one is like when you're really kind of like stressing the organization, right? You want to have enough tension where it's not just like status quo and easy, right? We want to add a little bit of tension to know that we're growing appropriately. And so we like to give the guidance that every number, every measurable, whether it's weekly revenue or weekly profit or number of sales calls or whatever that is, you should be hitting that number 80% of the time. So 80% of the time we should be doing what we need to do. And like we should be pushing a little for like that 20% of the time. The goal should be a little bit higher than what you expect as a minimum, so that you have the right amount of appropriate tension on an organization. To me, that was a big eye opener. I love challenging my clients and pushing them a little bit more. And then the other thing that I've learned is as we facilitate these types of workshops and these exercises with our clients is sometimes they really struggle to make that connection, like from their goals to the leadership team scorecard. That's usually pretty well done. But then after that, how do we drive the action that we need from every department and every person, and making sure that the departmental kind of goal or the individual goal is really all marching in the same direction to hit the long-term goal? People make it's really hard to translate that all the way down and then tie back to the vision. And then when we come up with these amazing things like I know Mark has done cash flow drivers with some companies, and they've uncovered millions of dollars of actions. Well, like, where does that get tracked? Some people don't kind of close the loop and go back to a scorecard and put it on there so we know how we're doing. And it's kind of like closing all those loops and connecting those circles so that people are held accountable to those actions. And it's really driving that down that I absolutely love.
I'm learning more right there. I'm taking more notes. Listen to that. That's
Yeah,
gold.
I know.
Those are
Yeah,
pearls
so
of
am I.
wisdom.
I'm getting lost here. I'm jotting notes and things of that nature down. So, yeah, well, excellent.
I would
Go
like
ahead.
to add one thing on that, if you wouldn't
Yeah.
mind. And so one of the things that was a little bit of in the book, it's on page 85, and it's in a reflection section, and it's something that was, a little bit of an afterthought, but I go back to it all the time. And it was, hey, when you're looking at measures on your scorecard, how do you know you've got a good one? Well, there's 3 questions that you ask, right? So is it activity based, right? So we want the numbers on the scorecard to be activity based, meaning somebody's taking an action. The second thing is it clear and simple? Not a lot of spreadsheet gymnastics every Monday to kind of calculate the numbers. It's got to be clear on what it's measuring. And the third question is it predictive? In other words, if you're measuring 13 weeks on the scorecard, you can easily predict what you think the 14th week or the 15th week or the 16th week would be. And so, is it activity based? Is it clear and simple to measure? And is it predictive? And if you can get each measure in a scorecard to answer those 3 questions, yes, you've got a dang good measure. And it's buried in this little piece of reflection on page 85 of the data book. In fact, I had to ask Angela, why I'm lost it. Where is it? We had to go find it together. But it's just like, oh my goodness, I'd make that a bigger thing in the book.
Mark and Angela, thanks for being a guest on part 1 of the Cirrus podcast, Industry Iowa. I want to thank you so much for joining us here today. And do want to tell our listeners we're going to be coming back with episode number 2, focusing on measurables, cash, and making it stick. So I look forward again. Mark, Angela, thanks so much for being on our podcast today.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Okay, segue into part 2. All right, excellent. Anybody need a short break?
Did that go okay, Steve? Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, as far as my perspective is, yeah. Absolutely.
I would love just a 2-minute bathroom break.
Okay.
And I wouldn't mind going to get a water.
Okay, go right. You know, I tell you what, let's go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and shut the meeting out and then reopen. So it's a lot easier for editing and things like that. So we'll see you back here in a few minutes then.
Okay.
Okay, same link and everything. Alrighty.
All right. Thanks, Steve.